Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Welcome to the first episode of our as yet unnamed Call of Cthulhu storyline. We'll introduce the players and their characters in just a moment. But before that, I just want to say that it's been a lot of fun playing this game so far. This was very much my first foray into the Call of Cthulhu RPG system, although I've been a long-time fan of the original stories by H.P. Lovecraft. As such, I hope any veteran players of the game will forgive us for any kind of rule slip-ups and such that we might make along the way. As with all of our podcast stories, we tended to lean more into the sort of story and role-playing side of things rather than getting too rules-heavy. So yeah, hopefully you'll come along with us for the whole storyline. Before we jump in, I also want to once again announce, / remind folks, that starting next week we'll be going from a bi-weekly schedule to a weekly one. Our main story episodes are still going to be every 2 weeks, but on the in-between weeks we're going to be running bonus episodes, which are going to be interviews, one-shots, world-building, really whatever we feel like doing that week. I'm super excited for you all to hear those. Our first one next week is going to be an interview with Lexa of the Dead Horse RPG podcast, with whom I was a cast member on the Curse of Penance series over on the Penance RPG podcast. It should be lots of fun, so stay tuned for that. Alright then, so without any further ado, let's begin today's episode. Enjoy. Okay, so hey everybody, we are playing something a bit different today. We are playing Call of Cthulhu, 7th edition. We're playing with a bit of a mishmash of different players from different things you've heard before for this. So why don't each of you introduce yourselves and where people may have heard you before. Let's start with Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. You'll hear me on Penance or the Curse of Penance cast. I played Meg and Frankie in the new Plummet season that we're doing. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
People may have heard you briefly on our Star Wars story as well.
Yes, yeah. I had a sneaky little... you might have remembered me as Varla.
Yeah, I think that was one of our... As a group, that was the funniest scenes, that whole bar scene.
It was so much fun.
That was funny. So yeah, okay. Eden, where have people heard you from?
Well, hello, I'm Eden, and you've probably heard me being a complete and utter prance on this podcast at some point. I also did the Shadowrun thing that you hopefully listened to. So yeah, you've heard me talk a lot on this podcast at this point.
Yeah, basically you're in 90% of the episodes of this podcast.
Pretty much.
Well, we're getting up there with the percentages, yeah. Cool, and finally, Mark.
Yes, hello, I'm Mark. I have been on the podcast previously as one of the main characters in the recent Star Wars story, Tempest Squadron, giving a really bad American accent, for which I apologise to any Yanks who are listening.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I apologise to any Yanks. It's a hell of a way to do it.
It was pretty terrible. But yeah, good to be back doing something different.
Alright then, so we've met our players. Let's begin our story. The year is 1932. For the past several hours, the three of you have been travelling on a train, winding its way across the rainy rolling hills and fields of the British countryside. Your destination is the small seaside town of Twynham-on-Sea. Barely larger than a village, it isn't notable for much, but has recently gained notoriety as the home of a young, up-and-coming physician purporting to have miracle cures for all manner of ailments and maladies. You each have your own reasons for visiting Twynham-on-Sea, and as the locomotive makes its slow progress and the day wears on, the carriage empties, leaving you three as the sole remaining passengers. Strangers to one another, as the guard makes his way through the carriage lighting lamps, you each look up and notice the other two, perhaps for the first time.
I see the train's emptied rather quickly. Just us left, it seems.
My character kind of turns away from anybody trying to talk to him at this moment and puts his head down, sort of lowering his chin into his scarf.
Madame Sway leans forward and just goes, "Indeed! It seems that this small town is a simple gem, only available to a small handful of you."
So it would seem.
So, obviously 2 of the 3 are happy to talk to each other, 1 not so much. Why don't each of you describe your character, how they would outwardly appear to the others?
Okay, my character's name is Bernard Hardcastle. He's a survivor of the Great War, and right now he's sat in a large trench coat, sporting a red scarf. As I say, he's pulled that up over his face. What little you can see of his face, there's the edge of a scar escaping from the bottom, the top of that scarf. He's got shifty eyes. He's looking a little bit worse for wear, like he's tired, like he sleeps very poorly. And yeah, he has the look about him of a man that's experienced some hard times in life. He's approaching his 40s. He's certainly quite weather-worn and rough-looking, shall we say.
Madame Sway, she's a young woman of 28. She's quite attractive, certainly well-dressed, but her clothes are very simple and show wear of like not the travelling sort, but the entertainment industry. Her shoes are really nice, but they're worn. On her finger as well, as she's like wrapped her jacket around her, it's obvious that a wedding ring is missing, or at least an engagement ring is missing. She's quite heartbroken at the moment. As an actress, she's moved on from her previous acquaintance and is trying to get some healing air.
My character's name is Alistair Fentworth. Early 40s. He's an archaeologist by profession. He lived through the Great War, but the age he was at, he managed to avoid being called up. He's a very tall, sort of stocky gentleman, wearing kind of a corduroy suit, but very strange choice of footwear. He's got hiking boots on. So part of his reason for travelling, well, the main reason for travelling down is to see an ailing friend, but he's got his hiking boots in case he gets a chance to go out and do some digging around, see if he can uncover anything from the past. A very curious man.
So, the 3 of you sit again in silence for a time, as the train navigates its way around a series of small hills. Outside the carriage windows you can see that the sun is beginning to set, hence the guard lighting the lamps. Finally, as the train breaks out of a hill cutting and begins its procession along a large embankment, you can see, laid out before you, across a series of ever-darkening farmers' fields, the lights of a small town. Your destination, Twynham-on-Sea. As the lights come closer, over the course of several minutes, eventually, from the next carriage, you can hear the shout of the conductor. "Twynham-on-Sea! All change, Twynham-on-Sea!" The momentum of the train begins to lessen, and it soon comes to a stop at a small, dimly lit station. A few seconds pass, and the conductor makes his way along the outside of the train, opening doors, and disembarking, the 3 of you find yourselves on the station platform.
Glad to be off of that train. Stretch my legs. Chance to be a fine thing. Ooh.
Yes, it's been a long journey.
Yes, it has. Where have you journeyed from?
Oh, Ayr. Up in Scotland. It's a far journey for a recommendation, but I'll do what's good for my health.
Indeed. Indeed.
So looking around you can see the a sort of sickly green light coming from a series of oil lamps around, and stepping off of the platform, there's a couple of bored-looking taxi men out front with some kind of battered-looking cars, They seem to be having a quiet chat, one laughing at a joke told by the other before they notice the three of you. As you approach, one pipes up. Anyone need a cab? Transport? Anywhere in town?
Barnard raises his hand and strides over to the gentleman quite rapidly away from the other two and nods towards them.
Evening, sir. Where can I take you?
I'm looking for lodgings.
Well, they got a couple of different places in town. Depends on your budget, shall we say. There's the King's Arms Hotel. If you don't mind going a bit further afield, there's the Harbour Hotel. Of course, if you're a bit hard up, there's always Kendall's boarding house.
I'm a man of simple means and requirements. I would suspect the boarding house will have everything I need.
Right you are. Step this way. He opens the cab door for you.
Before stepping into the cab door, Barnard turns towards the other two and gives them a hard stare to see what they're doing.
An extraordinary fellow.
Are you offering us a lift?
I'm heading to some lodgings. I suspect it may save us some cash were you to join me. I'm not sure that the particular choice of lodgings might fit your standards as a woman of certain standing, but by all means, join me.
Well, I suppose. Save a penny, save a pound.
Oh, my price is very reasonable, miss. The taxi driver interjects.
No, I'm meaning more the lodgings, darling.
Oh, well, yeah. But, if a boarding house should be fine, I would have thought so. You can tell he's a little bit embarrassed about the slight misunderstanding, but, yeah.
Sway's gonna grab her bag and make her way to the... Are you going to join us, or are you moving on elsewhere?
If there's room in the taxi, I'll happily join you. Thank you very much.
Okay, the taxi driver steps forward to give you a hand with your bag, if you would accept the help.
Yes, thank you.
Right you are, miss. Takes a bag and sort of puts it on the in the back. Once the three of you have situated yourselves inside the car, the driver eagerly makes his way to the front and begins cranking the engine. He initially seems to be having some difficulty, but eventually the car comes to life with a bit of a splutter. The driver takes his place behind the wheel and the taxi trundles away from the station. You get your first sort of good look at the town itself as you sort of make your way along the road. It's fairly sparsely lit, but you get a good look at some of the buildings. Near to the station, there's a collection of sort of rundown looking sort of industrial kind of sheds and things like that. But the further into the town itself, you get the sort of the houses and things themselves look to be a little bit older, sort of brick frontages and everything. You're not gone very far from the station before the taxi driver turns into a side road and pulls up in front of a quite sort of nondescript looking building with a hand-painted sign in front that says Kendall's Rooms and Board, and in slightly smaller letters, reasonable rates, respectable clientele only, please. The taxi driver jumps out and opens the door for you with holding his hand out for payment. Right, here we are. All for here, was it?
Yes, this was my destination.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. That'd be a shilling total for the trip.
Must be weekend rates. There you go, old chap.
Thank you very much, sir. He quickly pockets it and gives you a nod, and I take it all of you are getting out then at the boarding.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Taxi trundles off. You get a good look at the boarding house frontage itself. It seems to be well maintained. The step looks well swept. But like most of the town, it's kind of lit at the moment by this sort of like slightly sickly green oil lamps that are lining the streets.
It's hardly changed a bit, apart from the new signage.
You've been here before?
As a child, yes. That's actually the reason I'm here, to see an old family friend.
Oh, he's not sick, I hope.
Unfortunately, yes. But, thankfully, he's not hospital-bound, but they don't think he's long for this world.
Oh, my condolences.
Seems we share similar motives in visiting. I also have a friend who suffers.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Ilbeen.
Yes, well, let us get out of this cold and dark. My character is carrying a rather unique cane with a unique hand grip. He can slide his fingers through some holes, almost like a brass knuckle, to grip the cane, and he taps it on the ground twice and nods his head towards the door of the lodgings and sort of strides towards them.
I'll say again, extraordinary fellow.
He's certainly very direct.
That's one way of putting it. Then after you, my dear.
Thank you.
As you open the front door, a little bell tinkles as it does, as it's obviously hooked up to the door. Behind a front desk of sorts is a rather old-looking lady. She's about 5'2", quite friendly-faced. Looks up a little surprised to see people walking in at this hour. So, good evening, all. Is it rooms you're after?
Good evening, madam. I seek lodging this evening. I'll be looking to stay for around a week, I should expect. I have business in town.
Business? Okay, well, your business is your own, sir. I could put you in room 4, I think, just upstairs. A week, was it, you said? Could I take a name?
Yes, certainly. The surname is Hardcastle.
She scribbles it down in a pretty big ledger book. You get a sort of cursory glance at the ledger, at some of the dates. Doesn't look like she's had a huge amount of business in the last few weeks, really. But, I mean, that could be anything. She scribbles for a couple of seconds and then sort of takes a key off of a small rack behind the desk. Says, if you two are okay waiting for a second, I'll just show Mr. Hardcastle to his room.
Of course.
Certainly.
Okay, who should we go with first? Should we... Yeah, okay, we'll stick with Barnard. So she leads you up a sort of creaking set of stairs to a second floor. There's sort of a long corridor lined with a series of rooms. It's not particularly well appointed, really. It's quite sort of basic looking, but it's nice. It's tidy, and that the walls have been painted white. Each of the doors has a little brass knocker on it, much like a front door, and also a kind of brass plate with a number on it. She leads you along the corridor, short ways, to a door with a 4 on it, unlocks it with the key, and bustles inside ahead of you to light a small candle next to the bed. And she looks around, and you get the feeling she's a little bit sort of... not really a neat freak, but very much wants things to be well, in everything in their place, kind of thing. She smooths out the already very smooth covers on the bed. Oh, this is it then, Mr. Hardcastle. It'll be 5 shillings for the week, payable upon leaving.
Yes, this will do fine. You can rely on me for the money. There'll be no doubt about that. And well, there's really no need to fuss. I'm a man of simple needs. And he kind of pushes past her towards the bed to kind of move her away from it.
Oh, okay, very, very well. Breakfast is served at 6:30.
Is there any further libation, perhaps a little food this evening?
Well, I suppose I could open the kitchen up again. There's always the inns in town, horrible places, but suppose I can make you a sandwich.
Tell me about the inns, my dear. I am in need of a drink.
There's the Ship. That's been there the longest, right along the high street there. If you like something a bit rowdier, there's always the Thomas Trip. I don't frequent such places myself. Alcohol is the devil's work.
Well, some of us have come face to face with the devil. I know his work well enough, and I will sup some more.
She looks a little bit taken aback at this. A little bit sort of like, well, she's not used to men talking in such
satanic ways.
Yeah, such tones. Well, I'll leave you to it then, Mr. Hardcastle.
Yes.
Have a good evening.
Yes.
She leaves and closes the door behind her.
As soon as she's out of the room, Barnard's going to unpack his bags, which have been meticulously organised. At the bottom is an item that I'm not going to describe to the other two right now, but he's taking great care to make sure that it's concealed beneath all the rest of his gear. I think, AJ, you should hopefully gather what I'm leaning towards here.
I do, yes.
And yes, the rest of the gear, his clothes and whatnot, he's going to unpack and sort of assemble the room so that he can come comfortably the next week.
Okay. So the two of you, if there's nothing else you wanted to, is that?
For now, that'll be good to leave me there.
Okay. So the two of you watch as who you assume, she didn't really introduce herself, but you assume Mrs. Kendall has taken Mr. Hardcastle upstairs. You two are left in the foyer for only a couple of minutes before she bustles back downstairs. Right, who was next?
Again, ladies first.
You're such a gentleman. Yes, I would like a room, please.
What was the name, my dear?
It is Madame Sway. I am here for around a week. I may be longer. It is uncertain for the moment. But at least a week.
At least a week. Okay, all right. Well, we can keep that open-ended, I suppose. I'll put you in room 7, a little bit further along. If you follow me, please. If you'll wait here, sir, just a second.
Of course.
Again, she leads you up the stairs a little bit further along. You kind of clock where room 4 is as you pass, but you're a bit further along the corridor. She opens the door to a not. You don't find it that cramped, but it's not a big room really. And the curtains are drawn. There's a single bed there that sort of, it's all quite well appointed and tidied away, and that she sort of pulls her sort of shawl around her a little bit. She says, "Oh, there's a little bit of a draft in this one, but it always get drafty this time of year."
Is there washing facilities in the room, or are they separate?
No, looking around, you don't see any in the room. The bathroom is at the end of the hall. Of course, you'll find washing facilities and the commode in there. Was there anything else you required, Miss Sway, was it?
Yes. Madame Sway.
Madame.
No,
Sway,
I'm fine. I'm fine, thank you.
Very well. If it's it'll be 5 shillings for the week, but as you say, you may be longer, so we will figure that out as we go.
Oh, one more thing. Is there a particularly lively bar where a piano is played at all, or even has music and sing songs?
Songs? Well, I don't frequent such ghastly locations myself. There's if it's songs you're after, there's always the theatre, the Regency.
I did hear about that. When does it open?
I'm sure I don't know, but as far as bars go, there's a couple in town. There's the Ship and the Tom's Trip. But,
no matter, I will find out tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Very well, and she gives you a nod and hands the key over to you. And making her way back downstairs, is there anything you would like to do in the room before we go back to Mark?
Madame Sway is just going to slowly unpack her things for the week and take out her book and start reading.
Okay.
For a little while. For a little moment, anyway.
All right. So finally, we have Alistair. So you've been left alone in this entranceway. Looking around, you've been here a little while, waiting now. It's fairly plain, but it's pretty much as you remember it from when you were a child. Really, it doesn't seem to have changed much, including the proprietor. Now that you've seen her for a little bit, she eventually comes back downstairs and says, "Right, okay. Sorry for the wait, sir. What was is it a week as well for yourself?"
However, did you know? Yes, I'll be staying a week.
Good. Okay, I'll put you in room 2.
Room 2. I know it well.
Oh, you've stayed with us before, have you?
Many years ago, as a child, I used to come down here with my family.
Oh, that's a good memory you have there then, sir. Well, you'll know where we're going, but follow me, if you will.
Certainly.
Lead you upstairs. Opens the room. It's out of character. It's much like the other two, but you would remember it too. Not particularly expansive or anything like that, and pretty well appointed. Again, she goes through the whole sort of. It'll be 5 shillings for the week, payable as you leave. And yes, if there's anything else I can help you with, please don't hesitate to let me know, sir.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she leaves, and
So she's left the room.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair sets down the bag he was carrying with him and goes to remove his coat, but before he takes it off, he pulls a small folding photo frame out from an inner pocket on his coat, and he opens it up and sets it down on the bedside table. And there's a picture of a young, teenage-looking lady, black and white.
okay.
He sets it down fondly and then goes about unpacking his belongings.
All right. Okay, so the three of you you're situated, you've got your lodgings. Was there anything you would like to do in this evening?
Yes, Bernard would like to get up, put his jacket back on, grab his cane, and walk down the corridor out towards the front entrance again, back downstairs, to have a quick chat with the lady at the desk.
Okay. As you get downstairs, she's not actually at the desk, but you can hear her kind of rummaging around in a back room, which you would guess was maybe the kitchen from the noise of pots and pans that you hear. There is a small bell on the desk if you wanted to ring that, but...
Okay, rather than ringing the bell, Bernard is going to tap his cane twice on the ground quite loudly and give a little...
There's a pause of a couple of seconds, and then her head just sort of sticks out around the corner. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I did wonder what that noise was. Can I help you?
Yes, I would like directions to those bars that you were telling me about.
Ah, yes, the pubs. Well, if you leave here, take a right. I'm presuming. I thought I heard Charlie's taxi dropping you off, so presuming you came from the station. If you head back the way you came, back onto the main road there, and take a left, you'll soon find yourself in the main high street. You'll be able to see the Abbey from there. The ship is along there on the left, and a little further down, if you take a right-hand turn, you'll eventually get to the trip.
I see. Well, I will thank you for your assistance and leave you to your work.
Have a good night, sir. Please be sure to be quiet when you return. Other residents may be sleeping.
Certainly, I'm a man of discretion. With that, he turns and strides out the door.
Okay. Let's follow you for a bit before we come back to the others.
Okay.
So yeah, you find yourself back outside. It's fully dark now, other than the street lights, which are sort of burning away. You easily find your way back to the main street, and looking left, you can just about see the Abbey in the distance of this large church, and to the right is towards the station from where you came from earlier.
Okay, I'll head to the closer of the two bars.
Okay. It's not too far from where you are. This isn't a big town, really. Maybe 3 minutes walk, and you find yourself coming up on it. You can see it up ahead. There's a sort of black painted frontage of this bar. It looked not particularly high ceilinged, sort of lower floor, and a sign, painted sign sticking out from the side of the building, which says "The Ship."
Okay. Just before he walks in through the front door, he kind of... I'm trying to think of how to describe this. You know, you've got a cane in your hand, you've got it held by the handle, and then you pull it up and sort of throw it up into the air and grab it halfway. That's what he does, yes. And then raps on the door with the handle and pushes it open and steps into the bar.
Pushing open the door then with your cane, you find it not particularly busy. The ceiling, as I said, is fairly low. In fact, how tall would you say Barnard is?
He's at least 6'2", so let's say 6'2".
6'2". Okay. You're not having to sort of stoop to get in, but if you were wearing a tall hat, you'd have to take the hat off. Basically, is what I'm saying.
I've got a bowler, so I should be okay.
You should be okay with the bowler, but it's not particularly tall in here. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
There's a couple of men at the bar sat there, sort of seem to be sort of looking into their pints. They don't look like they've looked up at your entrance. There's one or two people sat at tables. It's a fairly subdued atmosphere in here. There's a man behind the bar is sort of seem to be washing out a mug with a fairly clean looking rag. Looks up as you approach.
As Barnard gets up to the bar itself, he again taps his cane on the ground to pull full attention. Says, "I would require a gin."
Gin? Oh, okay. All right. Give me 2 seconds. You can see him sort of trying to decide whether to give it you in a glass or just another mug. He eventually settles on the glass. There's only about 3 or 4 of them behind the bar, and pushes it towards you. There you go.
Much appreciated, sir. And he picks it up and has a small sip of it. Is it any good?
I mean, how refined is the the palate of Barnard?
Barnard can back some strong stuff, let's say.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't taste how bad it is.
Okay. It's okay. It's not good stuff. If you know what I mean. He kind of
curls the lip a little bit as he, after having that small taste, and sort of nods towards the barman as if to say, "Yes, this'll do."
Barman he seems a bit. He's neutral. He's not like he's not been standing there really waiting for your approval so much.
He doesn't get paid enough to care.
No, not really.
Having done a lot of bar work, I know that feeling very well.
Same.
I'm going to sup the drink for a moment and pay whatever is required. Assuming he's going to ask me.
Yeah, we'll gloss over that because fuck looking that up.
Yeah, I pay the amount of money required for the gin.
Yeah.
And I would like to just stand at the bar then and just listen in, drinking slowly this gin. Is there any conversation taking place nearby that I can rubberneck?
That's a good question. Okay. So we'll do our first skill check of the game then. So this is a listen check. Which I believe you don't have any skill points in.
Nope.
So, and people who play Call of Cthulhu are going to have to forgive us a little bit because this is our first time playing, I think all of us. And I can't find the relevant bit in the rulebook. So we're just going to take the percentage next to that listen, which is 20% as your untrained skill level in that. Normally, you would have to get under the 20% to have a success, but I have said it's already kind of quiet in here, so I think contextually it's going to be a little easier to make out any noise and things. So what I'm going to say for this, you need to get below 40 on a D100 skill check.
Okay, let me try that. I got 73.
Your so your tinnitus is playing up a little bit maybe, but you can't really make out the particular discussions. You can hear the general mumble. There's a couple of people kind of talking under their breath. You can't really hear what anybody's actually saying from your current vantage point.
Okay, so as the whistling grows in Barnard's ears, he kind of groans to himself and sups even more on that gin, finishing it off. And as he does, he kind of looks around to try and see who's talking now that he can't hear anybody. And is there anybody nearby that's very clearly in conversation with anybody else?
Okay, so looking around, I won't make you borrow a skill check for this because it's going to be fairly obvious in a a lit room who's talking to each other and who isn't. The two guys sat at the bar aren't really exchanging much between a couple of sort of occasional sort of like what seem to be sort of short comments back and forth to each other. I wouldn't really call it a conversation. You get the general kind of vibe that these are just two sort of older men who've known each other their whole lives, are just at the bar together. They haven't got a lot to say to each other, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. At one of the tables in the corner, there are 3 men sat sort of leaning over their pints, kind of whispering a little intently, you would say.
Okay. What's the kind of look of these gentlemen? Are they workman types, or are they perhaps people that have professions in town?
They've got the look of kind of workmen about them. They're wearing sort of quite coarse sort of woolen jumpers. A couple of them have got beards, which even it's a little out of sorts for this time period for anybody who'd be working in a sort of more forward-facing profession to have a beard such as this. At a push, you could maybe guess that these guys are sort of they kind of look like they could be fishermen.
Okay, so Barnard, having noted these gentlemen, is going to turn back to the barman and ask him, so what's the general profession of the men who frequent this place? Seems like, I don't know, a common man's bar? And he gives a baleful look to the barman as he says this.
Yeah, you get all sorts in, really, but, yeah. I wouldn't exactly call us, we're not exactly getting many visits from the aristocracy or anything. Yeah. I see. Perfectly reasonable. Seems like my kind of place. I'm not really one for the hoi polloi. Yeah, there you find that they all tend to drink at the hotel. I see. Well, I'll keep my distance for now then. Another gin, please. And with that, I'm gonna sit him down at the bar now. He's going to actually sit and relax and enjoy that gin. Okay. And once he's finished, he's going to head back. Right, okay. All right, so Madam Sway or Alistair Fentworth, either of you got anything you would like to be doing this evening, or are you calling it an early night?
Madame Sway, thinking that their patron is not going to enjoy her smoking in their rooms, she's going to go outside for a cigarette.
Okay. Out front, or?
Yeah, she's going to pull on her jacket and her coat, her long coat, and go outside and walk the boundary of the hotel while smoking a cigarette.
Okay. Yeah. Stepping outside, you see again. It's a fairly deserted street at this time, but there's one or two people. You know, the town doesn't feel like a ghost town, but it's very much not a bustling metropolis. So it's just standing outside smoking. Sort of having a bit of a look around. There's a small alleyway to the side of the boarding house, which seems to sort of lead to kind of like a back sort of courtyard area. As you're standing there looking at it, there is a pair of young-ish boys are walking along the opposite side of the road, sort of in conversation with one another. You'd put them maybe at 10 and 8. They've got a kind of familial look about them as well. You guess they could be brothers.
They're a bit young to be out at night.
It's not particularly late. It's
okay.
Yeah, we're kind of it's around about October, November time, so it's getting dark a little early. You know, okay. It's about 7, half 7 in the evening at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know really what else to.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
She's just having a fag.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. No, go for it.
It's been a long journey.
Yeah. In fact, for the 1930s, it's very considerate of you to go outside to do that.
She's a classy lady.
Yes, she's well, she's from Glasgow. I don't think she's completely classy.
Alistair is going to put his coat back on and head into town and head up to the theatre.
Okay.
With the purpose of collecting tickets for the show that his friend is going to be performing in. He'd already called ahead to reserve a ticket. So he thinks evening's quite young, I'll go and collect it now.
Okay.
Does he pass me as I'm having my cigarette?
Yes, let's say that as well. Yeah. So yeah, you step outside and you can see Madame Sway there smoking.
I see she's having a cigarette and I don't want to disturb. I give her a friendly smile and head nod as I carry on into town.
Okay. So leaving Madame Sway and the boarding house behind, you sort of tread a similar path to Barnard, heading into town, and find yourself in front of the Regency Theatre. Looking around, you can actually see the ship tavern across the way. But there are some lights on. It doesn't appear that there's a performance on this particular evening, but there is someone in the box office. Sort of looks up as you approach. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I've come to collect a ticket that I previously reserved via phone.
Very well. What was the name?
Fentworth, Alistair.
Fentworth. Oh yes, one for the Tempest on Saturday night.
That would be the one, yes.
Yes, very well. I'll just get that for you.
Thank you.
Rummages around in a box and pulls out a not handwritten, but this isn't it's not particularly flashy looking ticket on sort of thick pink card. Hand it over to you. There you go, sir. We look forward to seeing you in 2 nights' time.
Thank you very much. Actually, there is one question before I leave. I'm a friend of one of the actors in the play, Abraham Foster.
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, he's an old family friend, you see, and I haven't spoken to him much in recent weeks, only to organise coming to visit, but how is he?
Oh, I don't really know him that well personally. He seems okay on the stage. I've only seen one or two rehearsals. Seems to be getting on quite well.
He doesn't look sickly at all.
Tough to tell through the makeup for these actors, sir.
Quite. Well, not to worry. If he does come by for final rehearsals, could you just tell him that Alistair was called by, and that I'll see him on the performance?
Of course, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so stepping away then, I take it?
I step away from the box office and look around the main street of the town, again, seeing how it hasn't really changed much.
Yeah, it doesn't look to have changed a lot since... I mean, it's been... How old did you say Alistair was?
It's very early 40s, I think 41 or 42.
Okay, so it's probably been maybe 30 years since you were here. It hasn't changed a lot. There's a few differences. The turn of the century has happened, and there's... been a few... It looks like it was affected a little bit by the events of the First World War and the recent depression and all that. But by and large, there's a lot of it is ringing a lot of bells for you. Are you going anywhere after the? You're sort of standing on the street, kind of looking around. In fact, actually, looking across the way, you can. I mean, the windows are a little frosted, but you can just about see the figure of Barnard in the ship. He seems to be sat at the bar.
Okay, Alistair notices Barnard and decides, well, might as well go and have a small drink. And since the ship is right there, why bother walking around the corner to the trip?
So, okay, you're heading across the road then.
And I go into the ship.
Okay, you. How tall is Alistair?
I'm going to say he's the same height as me, about 6'5".
6'5". Okay, you have to stoop to get in here. Barnard, are you fully looking down into your drink, or are you?
Yeah, he's focused on the booze, kind of dwelling on the fact that his tinnitus is kind of reared up, and it's a reminder of everything he's experienced. So he's dwelling in that mindset right now.
I wouldn't say you're having like a full flashback, but you're just sort of you're pensive.
It's the day-to-day experience of being Barnard is being quietly stressed by post-traumatic stress.
Right. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Okay. So yeah, you see, Alistair. You see Barnard sat at the bar. He seems pretty engrossed in not talking to anyone and not looking around him. Really.
Yeah. So if I go up to the bar, I don't go up directly next to him. Maybe 2 or 3 bases away.
Okay. Barman comes over. Evening, sir.
Evening. Can I have a brandy, please?
Brandy. All right. Returns with your drink, and he doesn't appear. He's not engaging you too much with conversation.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
He's had his fill.
So I take the. He has. From Barnard.
That's his one conversation for the day. He's had it.
Okay, so I take the brandy. I pay the money for it, and I just sort of sit there and sip. And I make it last.
Yeah.
So.
Trying to, you don't down a brandy.
No.
Who downs a brandy?
No.
You trying to get Barnard's attention at all, or are you? Are you looking around at people? What are you? I'm
sort of looking up every now and again at Barnard to see if he notices me, acknowledges me, and then I'd see that as a cue to speak to him. But I'm not going to push it because he seemed a bit non-talkative when we met on the train. So just leaving him to his business, really.
Barnard kind of looks over out of the corner of his eye, having noted the presence of somebody approaching the bar, and you can see his shoulders sort of come up a little bit. Clearly he's full of tension. And he kind of pulls his scarf a bit closer up to his face, but as he looks over towards you, he catches one of those glances and then gives you a little kind of nod of acknowledgement of, yes, I know you. And then has a little drink again.
Safe to say you two are just going to keep to yourselves and then return to the boarding house for the evening after this? Or is there any particular thing you would like to do? Well, not even just the two of you. Madame Sway as well. Just a smoke and a sleep, is that the plan for the evening? Or
Yeah, I think she'll probably want to head out in the morning to do her things rather than late at night.
Right, okay. So, Barnard and Alistair then, is it just a quiet drink and a stumble back, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if we stumble back together or separately.
Well, that's up to you. That's 100% up to you.
Okay, so having finished that second gin, I suppose maybe we're heading towards closing time to justify us all. Maybe we're all there till kick-out time, shall we say?
Yeah, which isn't
sense?
particularly late in 1932, I wouldn't have thought.
Kicking out would have been about 10:30 at night or something like that.
Well, okay, let me change my mind on that. Right, Bernard is going to, with a little tap on the ground again with the cane, stand up and kind of look towards Alistair and say, I'm not sure if you're done here, sir, but I'm about to return to our lodgings. Would you care to walk with me?
I look up at him and say, that sounds like a good idea. And I down the rest of my brandy. Lead on.
Certainly. And Bernard leads out through the door into the night.
It's starting to get a little bit misty. Let's just putting that out there.
Okay. Again, making sure his scarf is pulled up over his face so we really can't see the lower half. Kind of turns towards Alistair and begins walking and says, so what brings you to Twynham-on-Sea?
Mostly pleasure, but not the completely fortunate kind. An old family friend is appearing in the Tempest in a few days' time, and unfortunately he's not long for this world. He's got some kind of terminal illness. They think it's some kind of cancer, but he's not bedbound, but he's still got his faculties, so it's one last hurrah to see him perform.
Mine a blessing to be able to indulge one's passions before the end.
Indeed, he's a very keen thespian, yes.
Yes, well, I understand potentially a little of your situation. As I may have mentioned already, I'm here to visit somebody myself, and he is unfortunately bedridden. I'll be visiting him in the convalescence house tomorrow. And yes, it's really not quite as pleasurable a circumstance that I visit on. And he kind of looks towards the ground as they stride on.
Close friend? Family, maybe?
Is a friend from the war. He's the only remaining member of my company. There were 8 of us total, and yes, he's the only one that's known my pain, and we'll spend our time before he's gone reminiscing, I suspect.
Were you in the Somme together?
Yes. We survivors of a charge, the only 2.
Yes, bloody massacre, the entire thing.
Yes, a terrible affair. What was your experience of it? And he sort of turns to look to you with a steely gaze.
I was a bit young to serve in the war, so I kind of got away with it, but I didn't get away from the entire thing unscathed. My first love, Doris, quite sweet on each other, but 1917 she was murdered by a gang in the centre of London. They mistook her for being German because I know the language. Basically, a young German chap had been assaulted and was looking for shelter, and because I knew the language, I gave him help. And this gang saw it and overheard it all. They chased after myself and Doris and murdered her in an alleyway behind Regent Street.
That's awful. Quite frankly, that's... Once again, I'm faced by the darkness of the world. It seems that none of us are untouched by this kind of thing right now. This is a dark time.
Very dark time indeed. You know, I'll tell you something, Barnard. I was not raised particularly religious. I learned religion. But how could there be a loving God, and yet how could he be in existence and allow that atrocity to happen. So many lost for seemingly nothing.
Yes, I too face doubts about such things. I cannot fathom the possible judgment of a deity that would bring this upon us. For what?
For a lot of signatures on a dotted line and nothing more, it seems.
The more I think of such things, I'm sorry, my friend. My apologies. I'm losing myself in this moment. The thought of the past is overtaking me. I would prefer that we drop this subject and let us hurry on.
Indeed. We'll speak no more of it.
And with that, we can pick up the pace and go back.
Yeah, I was going to say. So yeah, it's not a particularly long walk back to the boarding house from the pub. So about now, you the two of you are rounding the corner, and you just a short distance away from the boarding house itself. You can see it. So passing the rest of the trip in silence. Basically, you find your way to your rooms, and the three of you sleep for the evening.
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back next week with our bonus episode interview with Lexa from the Dead Horse RPG podcast. Our next story episode, episode 43, continuing where we left off today, will be available as usual in 2 weeks' time, on Thursday the 31st of January. In the meantime, you can get in contact with us on Twitter and Facebook, both of which we are at Pretend With Dice. You can also email us at pretendingwithdice@outlook.com. If you're an iTunes user, it'd be really great if you could leave us a rating and review. It all helps us to find new listeners, and we'd just really love to hear what you all think of the podcast. So for now, that's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.